Good morning, it's January 18th, and this is To My Liberal Friends. I think if you've been paying attention for the last 2 years, you will find that parents are getting more involved in what is being taught to their children in the public schools of this nation. During the pandemic, children were being taught remotely, and that gave parents an opportunity to look and see exactly what they were being taught. In many cases, they were not happy. Now, you can get people angry on a lot of things, but when you get mothers involved in what you're doing with their children, you're going to get a pushback. To a lesser degree, it involves fathers, but mothers are the key to this kind of movement. So what did these parents do? They started showing up at school board meetings. The area where this became most prominent was in the news was Loudoun County, Virginia. In trying to show that they were being open and fair, the school board allowed students to declare which gender they would be and to use the restrooms for their declared gender. In one case, a boy decided that he was in fact a girl. He entered a girl's bathroom and ended up raping another girl inside that bathroom. A tragedy. The school board tried to cover this up and immediately transferred the student to another school, but guess what? It happened again at the new school. Eventually, this news got out and parents became angry. The father of the first girl sued the school district and appears to be winning in court. So how do school boards across the country react to this kind of new level of parental involvement? Well, they're not happy about it. There's an article in the Washington Post this week talking about this very subject. And here are some excerpts from the article. I quote, "A school board meeting in Greeley, Colorado kicked off this month with a new restrictive public comment policy, the fourth iteration in a year marked by such vitriol over masks and books that one member suggested suspending comment altogether. 2 opportunities for citizens to address the board for a total of 4 minutes had already been slimmed to one 3-minute chance. Now speakers would have 2 minutes," end quote. And another part, quote, "And in Salem, Oregon, the school board in September closed meetings to the public and began taking comments by Zoom or phone or in writing, following what the superintendent called an escalation of disruptive behavior that had turned in-person comment into a public forum for political agendas," end quote. Well, when this all started, Democrats immediately began to blame those outbursts on the right. But when you look at this movement in its totality, you find that it's occurring in conservative areas and liberal areas. And as I've said, mothers, no matter their political stripe, care about their children. And they don't want schools indoctrinating their children, especially on subjects they feel should be taught at home and not in school. The reaction of many school board officials was to bring law enforcement into the meetings and have parents physically removed because they objected to decisions being made by the school board. We all remember the letter sent to the National School Boards Association calling on President Biden to use the Justice Department and the Department of Homeland Security and other federal agencies to investigate parents who made comments in school board meetings. Wow, that letter backfired on them big time. About a month after the association sent its initial plea to the Biden administration, the NSBA has faced outrage on all sides, from its members, state attorney general, lawmakers, and parental advocacy groups. These critics say the involvement of the FBI in school board meetings would chill parents' free speech. And they said, quote, "The NSBA seems more concerned about suppressing speech with those who disagree than real threats of violence," end quote. And that was signed by more than a dozen attorney generals. That backed them off in a big way. Local school boards, sensing the reaction of parents to such a threat, started distancing themselves from the letter. Presto, out came an apology of sorts from the NSBA's board. Quote, "There was no justification for some of the language included in the letter. We should have had a better process in place to allow for consultation on communication of this significance. We apologize also for the strain and stress this situation has caused you and your organizations," end quote. The bottom line is that mothers will not be silenced when it comes to issues involving their children, and woke school board members are starting to get the message. The DOJ, which had been flagging parents that showed up at school board meetings in protest of some of the curriculum, has to start backtracking on those actions. And if you think none of this happened, I would refer you to an October 4th, 2021 memo sent by Attorney General Merrick Garland to the FBI and federal prosecutors. And I quote, "Acknowledging a disturbing spike in harassment, intimidation, and threats of violence against school officials, Garland directed the FBI to hold meetings across the country and bring together government leaders to discuss strategies to address those threats, end quote. While spirited debate about policy matters is protected under the Constitution, he said, that protection does not extend to threats or violence to intimidate individuals based on their views," end quote. The end result is in many cases school board members are being voted out, as parents who attended the school board meetings are now organized and going to the ballot box. And some of these woke policies that they've been pushing are going to disappear, and they're going to figure out that it's time to just educate children, not indoctrinate them. This has been To My Liberal Friends. Thanks for listening.